pull on up. Isn't one good reason why you got to hit that little bell at the top of the page so you know when stuff like this is happening. Weird, right? Weird way to title something, right? What me and Jermaine Dupri have in common? That wasn't a shot. That me doing that wasn't a shot at all. At all. Jermaine Dupri's got, I'm sure he's got the resources to. Why am I even talking about this? Anyway, salute. What's going on, world's man, Mr. Mech? The time is 5:48 p.m. I would like to apologize for being late. And two, I would like to welcome you to the garage, home of the worldwide mechanics. Come on in, get your tool belt, get your coveralls. Let's get this thing on the rack and see where we at. Before we ever get started, do me a favor, hit the like, hit the subs. That's how you show your boy love. I'm getting better at this intro thing. Push button, what up, man? Good to see you, bro. Welcome everybody who's lurking. Feel free to drop in and comment. B74, what's going on? I already said the like and sub thing, but I'm going to say it again. Hit the likes, hit the subs. That's how you show your boy love. One time to B74. Big shout out to all of the mechanics who are going to be pulling up like they always do about this time. But I want to start off with this Jermaine Dupri thing. I think it's super funny that not even 20, maybe 24 hours ago, tops, I was on this very app going off when I had my integrity questioned, when I started talking about contracts and deals. And I don't know who is here and who remembers, but we had somebody pop into the comments and explain to me that, 3 members of Terror Squad said that Fat Joe jerked them. And I just said, I haven't seen the contract. I can't confirm or deny any of that. And they, well, Mac, let's keep it real. Well, let's be transparent. You're friends with Fat Joe, implying that I would lie or I need to make something up because I'm cool with Fat Joe. I would need to defend MCs that I've never met, Cuban and the Triples. I need to defend or not defend. I need to condemn their POV. 3 guys I've never met because of a friendship with Fat Joe. So here I am explaining myself and a little irritated. I'm not going to hold you. I'm always just a touch irritated when somebody comes after my integrity about something specific. Fast forward to today, I'm a little late to the party, but there's a handful of people I always check out as far as YouTube is concerned. When I have time, I can't say always, but when I can, if I'm getting like a YouTube break and I'm going to run and check somebody's page out, it's going to be Wayno. I'll do it myself. It's going to be Curtis King. It's going to be Screwface John. And it's going to be, the company man. And then, of course, a sort of podcast. But when I'm going for, takes and stuff. And Chig Smooth. I'm always going to check Chig Smooth. Just a handful of cats I go check. I go check Wayno. The first thing I see that pops up is Jermaine Dupri shouldn't have to explain himself. Well, what's that? Push. Thank you, man. Marathon. Shout out to Nipsey Hussle. I go check and see what's being said. And here it is, a clip of Jermaine Dupri explaining to internet strangers who were coming at his neck over an interview he did with Earn Your Leisure. Shout out to the Earn Your Leisure boys. Coming at his neck, telling him that, as he's explaining how Criss Cross came to be and what the finances were behind that specific group and project, he now has people in the comments saying that he jerked Criss Cross. He took advantage of them. He jerked the Chris's to the point, I guess it bothered him enough that he felt the need to explain how it actually goes. And I got to tell you, that's crazy to me that Jermaine Dupri has to explain because I'm never mad at giving people the information. Mind you, people that don't know him or how he runs a business. B74, you're exactly correct. That's exactly where I'm going with this. Like my again, mind you, I don't mind ever giving out the information. I do it myself as much as I can. Knowing that not everybody's gonna get it, knowing that not everybody is gonna embrace it, not everybody's going to accept it. People have a real issue accepting the truth. They'll tell you, that's just you, or that's not everybody, and you don't know and what. And then they want to question your credentials. And you notice you only get your credentials questioned by people who don't know what the f they're talking about. One, two, are contrarian as hell, and can't, and three, can't make a liar out of you. That's when your credentials will start coming into put they want that on the table now. What have you done? Who have you worked with? I don't see this. I don't see that. Well, what? Why should we listen to you? Here's my thing. You don't have to ever listen to anyone who's trying to give you the information. That's 100% up to you. It won't make the information true or false. Your acceptance of said information won't determine whether it's true or not. It'll just be what you got. Two, I always try to make it a point to remind everybody that, not all situations are the same. And I noticed that a lot of the people who demand an explanation are normally looking for explanations that suit their specific situation, or it needs to, the way the situation played out for them is suddenly the only way that these situations ever play out, ever. Regardless of the label, regardless of the time, the age, the era, the people at the table, all situations are now universal and only work out one way. You hear them tell it. So if you start going off of the script that they know, you must be lying. It's super ridiculous. Um, hit the likes, hit the subs, hit the likes, hit the subs, hit the likes, hit the subs, hit the likes, hit the subs. B, again, you're 100% right. A lot of people assume that Jermaine Dupri wasn't much more than a kid himself. He was older than the Chris's, but he was pretty much a kid himself. Number one, number two. I had to go look it up, but he didn't have So Def when he found Chris Cross. They basically provided the seed money for him to do everything else. But like as far as writing their entire album, producing the entire album, yes, he's going to get paid, and this is part of the issue I have with people who are from the outside looking in. And a lot of artists assume that because you've never heard about how the money is disseminated, you're under this impression that any money that goes to somebody besides the guys on the mic or the girls on the mic or the people on the mic, any of that money is only, you're being jerked if you don't see that money too. If the producer is getting paid and it's not going to you, you're being jerked. Like all of this stuff is contractual, is what is the bottom line. All of this cooks down to what kind of contract you signed. The gentleman we I went back and forth with yesterday on this live, the main thing I'm trying to explain to him is he's telling me that, you know, and this guy all say that Fat Joe jerked him. My main point to him was, if I didn't see the contract, I can't sit here and tell you that Fat Joe has a bad reputation for jerking anybody because I've seen too many artists who are under the impression that they're being jerked when they're not. You weren't being jerked. You're getting exactly what you agreed to. Maybe you're not clear on what you agreed to. Michael Brown. So Michael jumps in and volunteers and says, that was me. Props to you, Mike. Salute, Mike. Salute. And you see what it is. We just talking back and forth. I'm not being disrespectful, but I feel like it's so funny that our back and forth, I'm seeing the exact same thing being echoed by Jermaine Dupri. Jermaine Dupri is also having his own Michael Brown conversation with the internet in general, and even a more direct way because they're accusing him. It's like Fat Joe defending himself. They're accusing Jermaine Dupri of being the Fat Joe in this situation and saying what he did and who he did it to and why. And it's so bizarre when we're talking about two minors who probably had to have their attorneys or definitely had to have like a parental figure or an attorney, somebody like that, sign their contracts for them because they're minors. They can't enter into a legal contract, which means there had to be some kind of legal representation handy, or their parents decided to just raw dog it, which would have been a mistake. But I digress. I've yet to hear, rest in peace to the Chris that passed away, but I have yet to hear the other Chris complain about bread. Now I'm not checking for him. I'm not checking like that, but even if he is complaining about bread, it's very possible that he blew his money. And I'm not saying any of this is possible, but just because you see an artist now who's not doing as great as he was then doesn't mean that he got jerked then. It doesn't even mean he got jerked now. All of these contracts are right there to be go get an attorney. I've said this on here a million times. Go get a lawyer. If somebody's trying to convince you not to get a lawyer, don't listen to them. Simple. Maybe walking out of there means you don't get the deal anymore. All right, but if it's that crazy, if they want you, they'll let you get an attorney. If they don't want you, the attorney really wasn't going to matter too much anyway. Like they probably weren't going to put too much stock in too much into your specific situation. Which leads me to something else. Yeah, you just need a lawyer, man. You need a lawyer. You walk into a situation, and here's the other thing. Newsflash, right? Public service announcement for anybody who's listening, any artist, any up and coming artist. You should never expect your first deal. Your first deal, like you should never expect your first deal to have favorable terms for you. I'll say that again. You B74, you're right. Yeah, hold on. Michael Brown, yes, finesse 2 times, said Jay Prince and them told him he didn't need a lawyer. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. That's a red flag. And I'm sure somewhere in his head, Finesse knew that he really needed one, especially after you heard that. I don't know if he got high or drunk or he just decided to take the night off, but like that was a mistake. And again, anybody who tells you you don't need a lawyer is somebody you definitely need a lawyer for. Period. Plain and simple. End of story. I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. Short of my mother, anybody who asks me to not get a lawyer, I'm going to get a lawyer. And my mother would never ask me not to get a lawyer. So, just putting that out there. But here's the thing. No one who's signing a deal for the first time should expect for them to have super favorable terms for them. You shouldn't expect that a company or individual willing to personally fund everything that you need done to put that music where it's supposed to be, you should never expect for them to be okay going 50-50 with you. It's not 50-50. They're literally spending all of the money. And they're gambling that you can make said money back. And no one's going into business with you to break even. Enrique Original, that's a stupid question. That's a that's a stupid question in the middle of everything that we're discussing here. That is a stupid question. Like, that's just dumb. And that's what happens when you come on here asking stupid questions. Yeah, super weirdo business. Especially since I've answered that question before. Like, my face is weird, dude. Like, what do you want from me? Anyway, moving on. Most artists, Russell said he turned down the Rock Nation deal the first time because of the politics, but after that, after the man got traction, he got the deal. Here's the thing: if you don't have, um, what's the word I'm looking for? If you don't have like proof of concept, in other words, if you don't have the thing, if you don't have like, if you can't draw back from earlier numbers and say, okay, here's my graph. I sold this much at this date, and then a year or two later, I inclined up to this point, and then a year or two later, I inclined, and then 6 months ago, I shot all the way up to here with this single. So if I put some more behind it, then when that's your leverage, the fact that you're selling and you're monetizing and you're making money without the guys, without the label, without the Rock Nations, without the what any label, without the Def Jam, you're making money without them. You are now on the incline without said label, right? Now you have leverage to get a more favorable position once they start talking about, we're going to put money behind your project. We're signing, we're in partnership. We're going to pay for this. You provide that. And now, we're together, we'll take this thing to the top and we'll provide, services, but the services cost, right? If you don't have the resources to get that stuff done yourself, your first contract was never going to be favorable to you. It was always going to be favorable to the person who needed to spend the money because they want their money back as soon as possible. I don't care how much they spend on you. They want it back as soon as possible, and they do not want to just break even. They want a little more. They want a profit, like any business. And I think more artists need to go into it remembering that. If you were making music in your house and it was getting plenty of streams and maybe you were seeing, a couple $100 across the board every month from what you were doing. Okay, cool. Have you booked any shows yet? Maybe the shows are local. You're getting, I'll be super generous and say maybe you're getting $500 a show. $1,000 a show. You still got to come out your pocket with You still got to come out of pocket with all your expenses. So if you got to travel, you got to pay for that. Any food you need, you got to pay for that. Any hotels, you have to pay for that. All that stuff needs to be paid for, right? So that's subtracted from your $1,000. And I'm just being generous because most people aren't getting $1,000 unless you got some kind of buzz. If you're doing local shows, some places you can use public transportation to get to. Anyway, I say all that to say, if you're not generating tens of thousands of dollars, if your music is not generating thousands and thousands of dollars for you, and if that number doesn't continue to incline as you reinvest, um, you are now asking whatever entity you get in bed with, whoever you decide to do business with, you are now asking them to fund all the things necessary in order to push your career to a higher level. It all costs money. Chart positions cost, radio spins cost, the travel budget, again, the hotel budget, the food budget, the recording budget. If they decide that but most places, when they pay for the recordings, here's a little trick. Whoever pays for the recordings, a lot of times owns the masters. So if you're not recording on your own budget, if you're not recording in your own studio and you're recording off somebody else, everything that came out of that thing, they paid for. Everything that came out of that session, they paid for. All those songs you made during that session that they paid for, that stuff belongs to them. That's work product. That's intellectual property that was made with their resources. It's just like, if you're in R&D, research and development at some company, and you come up with some amazing ass idea, the company owns it. You don't own that. The company owns it. You did it in their lab on their dime, where they're paying you to be there with their equipment. They own that. It was your idea, but you brought it to life in their situation. Likewise with ton wardrobe. Just I ain't even getting to that. Like, if God forbid you need to pay for clothes, you don't want to go on looking like you do. You need some new stuff to go perform in. All that stuff costs. All of that stuff costs. And when you ask someone else to come out of pocket, you are now asking them to spend more than you've made. They want that money back ASAP, fast. They don't want to be out of their money. They want that bread back, and they want to profit, which means they want to make twice as much as what they gave you. And they're subtracting all of those costs, because all that money has to come back. When you start making money, they're subtracting what they spent. And a lot of artists blow through don't understand that those budgets, that's not pocket money for you to keep. That's money that they expect back. They want those costs back. So if they've spent $100,000, and this again, I'm just being super generous. If they spent 100,000 and you generated 150, all right, well, that 100,000 is coming out of the profits that you generated. They need that money back. And now here's the part of the deal where they're allowed to profit. So here comes the rest of that money. Hence 360 deals, because you had some artists who would get in these huge advances, and it was taking a long time for them to pay them back, because they'd probably be doing a bunch of other things outside of music. Maybe they were acting, maybe they started opening up this store, that store, they're selling a whole bunch of merch, but the label was only getting paid from the music. So now here comes the 360, where we're going to get paid from every monetized position that we were able to put. Every profitable position we put you in, we want a share of that to come back, so we can start evening out your balance sheet. We can get some of that red off your ledger here. We got a big set of numbers, and there's a bunch of subtractions, and we need to start putting some pluses on. I'm not sitting here telling you that there are no malicious businessmen. I'm not telling you that there are no spiteful, that it doesn't go left, or that there aren't people out there who are doing bad business. That's 100% the facts. What I am telling you is, there are a lot of artists who don't understand what they signed. A lot of artists who were misled by the words, which is key. A label will tell you anything. What's on the paper is what they mean. I'm going to say that again. A label can tell you anything. What's on the paper is what they actually mean. Forget what they said. The paper is what they meant. So they can tell you, it's like it's almost like the big beautiful bill, like, yeah, no tax on tips and et cetera, et cetera. That's what they said. What's on the paper, though, is it's actually a tax deduction, and you don't see it back till the end of the year, and it's only after a certain amount. Like, you see what I'm saying? It sounded sexier to tell you no tax on tips. It sounds sexy to say you don't need a lawyer, but the language in that contract says you need a lawyer. Okay? And again, if it's your first deal, please don't walk in here thinking that you are going to, like, the first deal is just going to, especially if you haven't been making money before this. Difference between LaRussell, as Push pointed out earlier, as Push Button Producer pointed out earlier, the difference between LaRussell and everybody else is LaRussell was spending his own money before he signed with Roc Nation. He'll tell you, if you listen to the interviews, he was spending 5 figures monthly. He was dropping money monthly on his own campaigns, and that's money he was generating. It's money he was making. So when they came to partner with him, those terms had to be favorable to him because he showed he showed proof of concept. I don't need you in order to be successful. I could use you to become more successful, but I don't need you to be successful. I'm successful in my own right now. So if you're gonna come in here, you're gonna have to, sweeten the deal where it's gonna be way more 50-50 because I'm fine on my own. Most artists can't say that. Yeah, the backyard play was chef's kiss. But I digress. That's leverage. That's the leverage every artist needs. You need to be able to tell the person, well, we're going to spend this amount of money to get you radio spins. I don't necessarily need radio spins, so you can keep that. What else you got? I have my own relationships with DJs across the country, so I don't really need you to spend anything like that. And I'll talk to them directly. What else? What else can you offer? I don't want to have to pay that back. I'm fine on my own. You dig what I mean? I already have that. That's already an established pipeline. Um, you need to be able to do that. All hoodie compliments will be accepted. B74, just so we know. Oh, and thank you for the gift, B. I just noticed. I didn't know what that little emblem at the top of the comments. I had no idea what I was looking at. Thank you. I just enabled that. Thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. B74, everybody, the big sis of the chat. Just understand that she's big mama in here. She's big. She's big mama. She's big mama, and that ain't got nothing to do with her size. She's big mama. So just understand that she runs the room. I just need her not big mama Cedar. You heard her. That's it. She big mama. She big mama in here. So whatever she say, go. Outside of Mac, give me that hoodie. That's the only thing that Big Mama can't get away with. She can't have my hoodie. But other than that, she is, the Donis in this thing here. And she was the first person to ever, do the that coin thing. That's the first time I ever saw that. I just turned that on. That's super fire. Um, but yes, please understand. Your first deal, you shouldn't be looking at it to be favorable in your terms. Unless you have leverage, when you first partner with somebody, you're asking them to provide things that you can't provide for yourself. So they're going to want more than 50-50. It's a partnership, sure, but they need their money back and they want to profit ASAP. And a lot of artists who did not break even because they spent more than they made will sit back and tell you that they got jerked. Sounds crazy. But if you stayed all night in the studio, and we're talking about a studio that charges somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's say, 75 an hour, and I'm being light, again, I'm being light, $150 an hour, and you brought all your boys, and y'all stayed there all night, you only walked out of there with one record, or you only walked out of there with two records and maybe a reference. That bill that you racked up, the studio's not giving you that for free. That's not just okay. No, they want that money back. That engineer needed to be paid. That room needed to be paid for. You started ordering food. That was on the that came out of the label's pocket, bro. All that money had to come back, all of it, and that's just one expense. You go to the studio with that. I have learned by watching one of the traits that I've picked, one of the tools that I've picked up. Here's a little something for all the artists. I memorize all my songs before I go to the studio. I don't write anything in the studio. While I'm on the clock, that's stupid to me. Everything I write, every song I make, I do here in the house. I play the beat, I memorize it, I go through it, I work it out the way that I want. I make sure it's super committed to memory, and then I go into the studio and then I lay it down. In an hour, I can put down like maybe 5, 6 records because I got it memorized already. Maybe like some nips and tucks, a couple tweaks here and there, but like overall, no, no, sir. Right in the studio on the clock? Are you out of your mind? They charge you $200, $150, $75 an hour, and you're in there you're writing? Stupid. Stupid. Why on earth would I do that? You know how expensive those studios get. People tell you, I live in the studio. You know how much that costs? It's cheaper to live in an apartment. You'll be paying a month's rent by the time you walk out that motherfucker. Like, no, 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 no. And that's one expense. That's just one that I've seen him tons of artist stuff. They go looking at their expense sheet, sitting with the accountant. You look at the expense sheet, it's crazy. That's why some artists, when they were popping at their height, they brought their own plane. Because those back and forth flights, it was cheaper to have your own plane. It's cheaper to have your own studio. It's cheaper to have your own engineer. It's cheaper, 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 cheaper. You start cutting costs in all the places that you can. Again, when those expenses come, those people want their money back. And here's the main thing: they're not wrong for wanting their money back. Stop thinking that they're demons or they're evil because they want to get paid in the business deal that they were in. That's again stupid. And every time you walk into a room and say something like that or express that kind of attitude, you're just telling them how new you are. You're literally telling on yourself. You're just explaining to them that you don't know how this works. And you just expose yourself as food. Better to remain quiet and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. With that said, I'm a shake the spot. Um, got caught up in Miami with that expense ledger. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. They want it back. No, I don't. Who do you know in life hands you your credit card, hands you their credit card, and doesn't expect you to pay for it unless you're getting. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, mothers and misters, bunions and blisters, time is now 6:20. We are going to shut this down for the evening. God willing, I will see you all back here at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Make sure you hit the little bell on the top of my page so you get that alert and know when I'm pulling back up so you can jump right back in here and we'll do some more of this stuff. The countdown to Iceman is officially almost here. I can't wait to see what the reaction is going to be. Let's talk about that tomorrow, unless y'all want to go over some more business stuff. But in the meantime, in between time, take off those coveralls, take off that tool belt. Let's get this thing off the rack and see where we at. Shout out to all the mechanics worldwide. Again, God willing, I will see you back here tomorrow at 5 o'clock. The garage is now officially closed for the evening. Everybody be safe. Peace.